Okay, let's unpack this. We are diving into uh, a really fascinating case study today where the lines between fashion, philosophy, and even self-help, they've just been completely blurred.
They really have.
We've been looking at a stack of material on BKLEO clothing, and they see clothing not just as, something you wear.
For utility or for style.
Exactly. It's something you actively use to shape your inner world.
It's a really important distinction they're making. I mean, it moves the whole conversation beyond just looking good, which has always been fashion's job, right?
Right.
And it moves it into the psychological space of being good, or at least, being focused on getting better. It's the intentional commodification of motivation.
Absolutely. So the core premise we're looking at, it's a challenging one. What if the clothes you put on didn't just keep you comfortable, but they acted as a literal daily reminder?
Like a psychological trigger.
A trigger, yes. To stay on mission. What if a hoodie or a t-shirt said something true, not about a trend, but about you and the person you are working every single day to become?
And that immediately raises a huge question for anyone looking at this brand. When BKLEO says they're building not just a company, but a global movement to empower humanity,
Mm.
what are the foundational beliefs they're actually selling?
Hmm.
And maybe more importantly, how do they stand out from just, the flood of motivational slogans we see everywhere else?
Yeah.
Our job here is to really dig into the claim that fashion can be a tool for transformation, not just surface level expression.
That is our mission exactly. We need to analyze what this brand says it's doing, positioning itself as, and this is their phrase, more than a brand.
Right.
They're describing a global mindset, a sort of a focus mechanism you can wear. So let's start right there. What makes this apparel fundamentally different?
Well, the difference is all in their stated intention. They call their product empowerment apparel. So it's clothing with meaning, intention, and purpose baked right in.
That's a very targeted response to a fashion industry they see as shallow.
It is. They're not trying to sell you the color of the season. They're trying to sell you a commitment device.
The mission they lay out, it really does stretch way beyond your typical apparel company. It's explicitly about building a global movement, helping people wear their mindset, own their journey, and rise into their best selves. I mean, that's a heavy lift for a line of t-shirts.
It is a heavy lift, but if you connect it to the bigger picture, it really reflects a sociological trend.
In what way?
The sources show that they're tapping into this widespread fatigue with fast fashion and, generic trends that last 5 minutes. People want substance. They're looking for meaning in what they buy.
So they're meeting a psychological need.
Precisely. The need for validation, for purpose. And they're monetizing it by framing their apparel as a vehicle for that self-actualization.
And their targeting is so specific. It's not just for people who like streetwear or activewear. They've identified a very clear psychological profile.
They have. And this is where the marketing is, frankly, genius.
Yeah.
They're aiming for people globally who are in a very specific transitional phase of their life. The audience is defined by struggle and growth.
Like who, specifically?
Individuals healing from hardship, people actively building their dreams, rewriting their stories, or growing through struggle.
So the clothing isn't really for people who feel like they've already made it.
Not at all. It's for people who are in the difficult, messy middle of that journey.
And the clothing is meant to be a reminder that they're not alone.
Yes, a form of tangible solidarity. I mean, think about that phrase, rewriting their stories. The brand is literally offering the clothing as a visible chapter marker. You put it on and you are declaring, this is the next better chapter of my life.
And that idea seems to travel well. The sources really stress this global ambition, from Brooklyn to Berlin, Lagos to London.
It suggests this desire for purpose is a universal human thing. It's not tied to one culture.
What's really fascinating here is the contrast they're setting up. They explicitly say the brand stands for substance in a world obsessed with image and shallow trends. They call their pieces soulful.
Right, and that's not just advertising fluff. It's positioning.
Mm.
They're setting themselves up as the emotional antidote to the speed and the disposability of modern consumption. It suggests permanence, internal value over external flash.
And that distinction is the perfect setup for the product itself. Because this is where that mission gets, embedded right into the fabric. The clothes aren't defined by catchy slogans. They call them identity statements.
Which is so much more potent than a slogan. A slogan tries to sell you something. An identity statement is meant to reflect and Affirm an internal belief you already have or want to have.
Yeah.
The sources are clear. These statements are for people tired of being boxed in, who are ready to rise up and wear something that just screams, "This is who I'm becoming."
Okay, this brings us to the actual language, and we have to pause here because these specific phrases, this is the whole mechanism. They're not selling clothes. They are selling these narratives.
And we need to break them down because they really encapsulate the brand's whole psychological approach to these concise, powerful stories.
Okay, let's do it. Let's take the first one they list, built different. It's short, it's declarative, it immediately sets you apart.
It does. It plays right into that psychological need for individualism. But it's not just about being unique. It implies resilience. You're built differently because you overcame something, which ties right back to that target audience of overcomers.
Then you have something like, fearless to the bone, nothing breaks me. Much longer, much more aggressive. It's like wearing emotional armor.
It is. It's an external coping mechanism. If you're going through a hard time, putting that on is like a daily anchor, a preemptive declaration of victory over whatever you're facing.
Okay, now this next one is really complex. Genius mind, gangster grind. There's a fascinating tension built into that phrase.
I agree. This might be the most nuanced one they have. It captures this very modern desire to balance the genius mind intellect, strategy, with this relentless, almost aggressive effort, the gangster grind.
Street smarts.
Exactly. It's a fusion identity. It speaks to people who feel like they have to be strategic while also just, outworking everyone else. It legitimizes the hustle.
What about the more aspirational ones, like from dust, I rise reborn with purpose?
That one speaks directly to that rewriting your story crowd. It's the ultimate affirmation of self-reinvention. It acknowledges the past failure, the dust, but immediately pivots to a new, purposeful future. It's so compelling.
It validates the struggle.
It validates the struggle while commanding you to move forward. And then the last example we have is restricted access, authorized only. That's pure boundary setting.
Totally.
It's a declaration of high value. It tells the world, my energy, my time, it's valuable. You have to earn entry. It elevates the wearer's self-perception from just a passive person to an active gatekeeper.
It's so clear that the language is anything but accidental. The sources even point to specific items crafted to elevate your confidence, like the building my best self crop top.
Where the fear of failure cancels barriers hoodie.
Right. It's an explicit attempt to influence your mental state through what you're wearing.
And this is where we see that concept of enclothed cognition in action. It's this idea that what you wear can actually systematically influence your psychological processes. When you put on something that represents focus or fearlessness, your brain starts to adopt those characteristics. The wearer isn't just wearing fabric, they're putting on a psychological shield, a daily dose of focus.
And the brand claims that when your clothes align with your intention, you physically move through the world differently. The source material says the wearer will walk different, speak different, show up different. I mean, that is a massive claim for a t-shirt.
It's a huge claim. And that's why the evidence of impact is so critical here. Does this psychological trick actually work beyond the first week?
And their proof is the customer testimonials.
Exactly. They use that emotional resonance as their proof point.
Let's look at those. Marcus J., for instance, says, wearing BKLEO reminds me that I'm not who I used to be. That's profound. The clothes are helping him dissociate from a past self.
And then Ashley Ard's comment, every piece makes me feel like I'm stepping into my purpose. That confirms the idea of the clothing as a physical conduit for your intention. It's a morning ritual.
Right.
And then you have Daniel K., who just says, it's more than a hoodie. It's a mindset.
Yeah.
These aren't just flattering reviews. They're evidence that the whole identity alignment strategy is actually landing with their target audience.
That focus on impact and community, it brings us to the bigger picture here, the movement. The brand says it has a community of over 12,000 customers. That's a serious footprint for a brand built on philosophy.
It is. And the unifying factor is the most interesting part. The thing connecting these 12,000 people isn't their background or where they live or their job. It's a shared vision.
So they've built a self-selecting community based on aspiration.
Entirely on aspirational traits. Yeah.
So who are these people? What defines them beyond just wanting to be better?
They define them with three characteristics. Dreamers with bold goals, who provide the vision. Doers who take action every day, who do the work.
Execute.
And then critically, overcomers who've turned pain into purpose. It's a movement defined by resilience and forward momentum. And the clothes are the uniform for that striving.
And this movement has some seriously ambitious goals for the future. They are not trying to be a niche brand.
Absolutely not. Their vision is stated so clearly to become the #1 global empowerment fashion brand.
So how do you do that? How do you scale globally without losing that authenticity, that soulfulness they claim to have?
Well, their plan is to grow into very diverse but very specific locations. It's about being present in achievement-focused environments. They want their apparel physically in schools, gyms, boardrooms, on stages, in studios.
So they want to be visible wherever people are actively striving and achieving. The clothes become a universal signifier of dedication.
That's it, exactly. Their methods include partnerships and launching ambassador programs, which basically turns their customers into advocates for the mindset itself.
So the expansion isn't just about selling clothes.
They frame it as creating a platform for purpose.
Yeah.
They're building a mechanism to distribute a codified mindset on a global scale.
That makes them a really compelling case study in, 21st century branding.
It does. But if we're being critical for a moment, there is a subtle paradox here.
Go on.
While they say they're about substance over image, they're ultimately selling a shortcut to affirmation. So the question is, does that initial emotional high from the clothing fade over time? Can you sustain real transformation just by wearing a shirt?
Right. Or does the real work still have to happen when the hoodie comes off? That's a fair challenge. They're commodifying the commitment.
Which might make it easier to start, but maybe doesn't guarantee the long-term grind. The sources, though, they focus almost entirely on the positive psychological utility. The clothing is positioned as the trigger, not the final solution. You put on the focus, and then the effort has to follow.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? This deep dive really shows how a brand can build a philosophy where clothing moves way beyond just function or style to become a daily psychological tool for self-improvement. It's a deliberate and highly effective strategy to market motivation itself.
It's a fascinating reflection of our need for affirmation, for self-actualization. They're taking this abstract goal of being better and giving it a physical form that you choose to put on every morning. And you, the listener, you're inherently part of this because you're curious, you're striving to learn.
It definitely makes you pause before you reach into your closet tomorrow morning. Are those just neutral pieces of fabric, or are they passively reflecting whatever mood you woke up in?
Which brings up an important question for you, the learner. If we accept the premise that every day you have two choices, to blend in or to rise up, how powerful is that first physical object, that piece of clothing, in influencing that choice?
In setting your psychological trajectory for the entire day.
That act of conscious choice is the foundation of their entire success.
So a final thought then.
Consider two last examples of this mindset apparel as concepts for reflection on your own path. Think about the challenge in a simple shirt that just says, "Why not?" It's daring you to question the status quo. Or reflect on the power in a statement like, "Bones of a king I was born to rule my path." These are conceptual mandates in fabric. The ultimate takeaway is if we can consciously choose our external presentation, maybe we can more powerfully influence our internal focus. What will you choose to wear tomorrow morning, and what mindset will you choose to put on with it?